Veterans Benefits Vet Talk. And I do want to thank all of you for being here this morning. I do have a handout for everybody. Hopefully you have it. I also emailed it to you yesterday if I knew that you were going to be here. Why is this not going? Come on. Oh, hold on. Are we having technical issues? Oh, there we go. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is, and we briefly talked about some of this stuff in the past, but the Low Income Financial Assistance Program here in the state, it's called, well, they just changed the name to Mass Vets. Previously, it was called Chapter 115. I'm going to talk a little bit about burial benefits, and for those of you who were not at the session that focused specifically on burial benefits, the property tax exemptions available to disabled veterans and surviving spouses, the disabled veteran annuity, the welcome home bonuses, the registry's benefits, and then we're going to talk a little bit about two acts that have been passed recently here in the state. One is called the BRAVE Act, and one is called the SPEED Act. So, Chapter 115, or Mass Vets as it's now called, is a non-taxable monetary benefit to low-income veterans and their spouses or surviving spouses. It is administered by the Veteran Service Officer in the community in which the veteran or the applicant lives. So if you live here in Westport, you would come and see me for this program. If you live in another community, you have to go see the VSO in the community that you live in to apply for this program. You do have to meet income and asset limits. The income limits right now, and it goes from July 1st to June 30th, but for this fiscal year, for a single recipient, is $2,265 a month gross income. And if you're a married couple, it's $3,052 a month. So I will say that number has a little bit of wiggle room because we have what's called a spend down. So what does that mean? If your income is over this income limit by say $100, then what we will do is we will subtract, excuse me, sorry. We will subtract that $100 from like a medical premium that we would normally reimburse you 100%. We would subtract that $100 from that medical premium and reimburse you the difference plus any other medical premiums that you may have. The asset limits for a single recipient is $8,400, and for a married couple it's $16,600. So assets is anything basically that is cash on hand or that can be easily converted to cash. It is not your primary residence. It is not a vehicle. It's not your personal belongings in your home, your furniture and such. If you have multiple homes, that second home is an asset. If you have rental property, that's an asset. If you have multiple cars, boat, RVs, campers, motorcycles, whatever, well, motorcycle as long as it's not your primary mode of transportation, those are all considered assets. So one of the stipulations of this program is that you have to apply for any and all sources of income that you qualify for. This program is a benefit of last resort. So I have on here examples. Social Security, if you are under 65 and you don't want to work anymore, but you're 62 and eligible for early retirement, you have to apply for early retirement to be on this program. SSI, which is a supplemental security income, that's for Social Security recipients who are still considered low income, and it's a way to get a little bit extra money in your Social Security. SSP, that's a state program for people on Social Security who again are really low income. The state supplements their income a little bit. SSDI, that's disability. MHBI, that stands for Mass Health Buy-in. Anybody know what that is? Anybody familiar with that? So that's a program, it's a federal program that's administered by the Medicaid program in every state. So here in Massachusetts, it's called Mass Health Buy-in. And that's where if your income and your assets fall under a certain number, Mass Health will pay your Medicare Part B premium for you, and your Social Security check will be the fuller amount, the higher amount, because there won't be a deduction for Medicare Part B. You can apply for that even if you're not on this Chapter 115 program. The benefit to that, if you qualify for that, also is that you can get help with your Medicare Part D premium. Usually it's lower than it normally would be. And also, your prescription premium or your prescription copays are capped. Right now, it's for Tier 1, it's $3.95, I think. And for a Tier 3, it's $8.95. That's the maximum you can pay for a prescription copay if you qualify and are enrolled in the Mass Health Buy-in program. So that can save you a substantial amount of money. Like if you think you're on Eliquis, which is normally $100 or so a month, and you qualify for Mass Health Buy-in, you will not pay more than $8.95 for that prescription copay. Any questions about that? Okay. So what does this Chapter 115 Financial Assistance Program do? It can assist you potentially, depending on where your income falls, with your shelter costs. Even if you own a home and you don't have a mortgage, you still are responsible for property taxes. You're still responsible for insurance, for maintenance. So we calculate all of that stuff in and come up with a shelter allowance that is applicable to your financial situation. It can potentially help you pay heating costs, and we all know heating costs is going to skyrocket this winter. And then it also can help pay for medical expenses. So your insurance premiums, your Medicare Part B, your Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, Medicare Part D, your prescriptions. If you have private health insurance because you're a federal retiree or a town retiree and you have the insurance through the town instead of a Medicare Supplement, it can reimburse you for those medical expenses. It can also reimburse you for copays. If you go to your doctor, if you go to a radiology appointment, lab testing, any of those kinds of things. And it can also reimburse you for your prescription copays. Right now here in Westport, we have about 37 people on this program, and quite a few of them get their prescriptions from the Westport Apothecary, and they bill me directly every month. So they go to the apothecary, they get their prescriptions, they don't pay anything out of pocket. I get the bill, I tell the town, cut a check to the apothecary, and they cut a check and it gets mailed right to the apothecary. It makes it so much easier so people are not paying out money and waiting for reimbursement. So those are some of the things that it can cover. And then it can also potentially help with the cost of hearing aids, eyeglasses, dental work. I have a couple of companies, one in Fall River and one in Dartmouth, that have agreed to work with me for hearing aids for people on this program, where they are not paying a penny out of pocket. We are covering the entire cost of their hearing aids, which is a couple $1,000, maybe up to $3,000. You do have to qualify for this program to get that benefit. Eyeglasses, usually it's not 100% reimbursement. It's probably maybe about 50% or so. And then dental, again, I have probably about 10 different dentists in the area, unfortunately none in Westport, but I have some in Dartmouth, some in New Bedford, some in Fall River, that have agreed to accept the amount that I can pay, or the town can pay, for this benefit for dental work. So you get cleanings twice a year, you get x-rays once a year. If you need more major work done, that can potentially be covered as well, and it's not costing you anything. If we bill the insurance if we pay the insurance directly, those dentists cannot, by law, charge you any additional money. That's written in the law for this program. So, does anybody have questions about this program, Maria?
Yeah, as far as the eyeglasses,
Yeah.
veterans can go to Providence.
So,
To get free,
So,
the test and the
yeah,
glasses.
so for the glasses, if you're a service-connected disabled veteran, you're enrolled in VA healthcare, you can get your glasses from the VA.
Oh,
This is for spouses and surviving spouses as well who cannot go to the VA. So,
so you have to be a disabled vet to go to.
a couple weeks ago, I gave all of the stipulations to qualify for eyeglasses from the VA, because it's not everybody. I know if you're a disabled, service-connected disabled veteran, or if you've had, I don't know, like a stroke, and there's a few different things. But eyeglasses through the VA is not available to everybody who's enrolled in VA healthcare. I don't have it with me, all of the stipulations, but
Okay.
for Howie, he could. If he's enrolled in VA healthcare,
Right,
he can get his glasses at the VA. You cannot.
No, I know.
Yeah. Any other questions about this? I have an entire presentation just on this program that I've done before. If anybody thinks they're interested in that, please let me know. I'm happy to do a presentation like this just on this program, or talk to you about it one-on-one. I will say, there is quite a lot of information that you would have to gather. The veteran's discharge paperwork, if you're married, your marriage certificate, 3 months of bank statements, photo ID, proof of insurance premiums, proof of your shelter costs, all of that stuff is information you would have to gather. And then I could put everything in the computer to see if you qualify and for how much money. All right. Are we good to move on? No questions about this? Okay. So, another part of this chapter 115, and I mentioned this before, but another part of this benefit, even if you're not enrolled in getting monthly benefits, is that if you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, and you are low income without the means to pay for a burial, the town can pay for your burial as long as the total cost of the funeral does not exceed $5,000, and the maximum we can reimburse is $4,000. And I will say that we will not pay this to an individual person. We would pay this directly to the funeral home. So they would, if this is something that interests you down the road, if you need it, you have the funeral home reach out to me or whatever town the veteran or the spouse lived in, and we would work with the funeral home to make sure that the bill is under that $5,000, and we pay the funeral home up to the $4,000. Questions about that? Okay. So I did mention this before too in the burial benefits. There are 2 state veterans memorial cemeteries here in Massachusetts, Winchendon and Agawam. Neither one, unfortunately, is anywhere close to us, so I don't know of anybody in Westport who's been buried in one of those cemeteries. If it's something that you're interested in and you want to find out about the eligibility for it, please reach out to me and I will gladly talk to you one-on-one about that. All right. So property tax exemptions. So, in Massachusetts, if you are a service-connected disabled veteran with at least a 10% disability and you own a home, you're entitled to an exemption on, or a partial exemption on your property taxes. So there's a whole bunch of criteria, there's different amounts, they all fall under specific clauses of the law that governs this. So if you have 10 to 90% disability, or you're a Purple Heart recipient, you are entitled to a $400 exemption off of your property taxes. I'm not going to go over all of these. I'm going to go over the ones that are like the most popular. But just so you know, like there's $750, there's $1,250. Excuse me again. The $1,500 one on the bottom, that is disabled by the VA and requires specially adapted housing. So if you had to have your bathroom modified to a walk-in shower because the veteran is in a wheelchair, that's a specially adapted home. Things like that. That's a higher exemption than if the veteran is just 100%, which I'll get to on the next slide. So, this is a big one. If you are a surviving spouse of a veteran, and the veteran died from a service-connected condition, the property tax exemption for that surviving spouse is 100% of the property tax bill every single year. 100%. That can allow a lot of surviving spouses to stay in their home once their spouse passes away. That's huge. But it does have to be a service-connected death. And then the last one, 22E, is the 100% service-connected veterans. That does include if you're 100% due to individual unemployability. Does everybody remember or know what I'm talking about with the individual unemployability? Yeah, I talked about that in the disability one I did a couple of weeks ago. So that's $1,000 exemption. So a couple of points to know. If you are married and you are not the veteran, but your spouse's name is on the deed to the home, and you, the veteran, live in that home with your spouse, the spouse can also get that exemption. And then the unremarried surviving spouse of a veteran, if it's not a service-connected death, is entitled to the exemption that the veteran would have been entitled to when the veteran was still alive. So any of the other clauses, right? So if the veteran was between 10 and 90% service-connected disabled, was getting the $400 exemption, veteran passes away, that spouse is still entitled to that exemption. Okay, the other couple other things, there are some communities in Massachusetts that have made the decision to offer higher exemptions than this. Right now, Westport is not one of them, so these are the amounts that you would get in Westport. I know we have at least 2 people who do not live in Westport, so I don't know what your cities, what their rules are. You do have to apply for this every year. It's not a one and done, right? It's not like you can apply and then get it every year, because it's based on your situation on July 1st of any given year, right? So it's the start of the fiscal year. Here in Westport, you have to apply ideally between July 1st and November 30th. They will take applications beyond November 30th, up until I want to say like February, but ideally they want them in by November 30th, because then the exemption will show up on your 3rd and 4th quarter bills. And then I also want to mention, for anybody here who already gets that exemption, it was before where the assessor would send out the green form, right? They would handwrite the information on the green form. You would go to the assessor's office and fill out the rest and sign it. If you didn't go in by a certain date, they would mail it to you and say, fill this out, sign it, send it back. And I've been talking to the assessor's office, and I said, we have technology, let's use technology. So I am gonna start doing those forms by computer, and starting next year. And I can call you, I'll call you, and I'll say, I have your property tax exemption form. You can come in to review it and sign it if you want. If I have your electronic signature, I can add it to the form, and I will email it to the assessor's office. So it makes it easier for you guys. Hopefully that system will work. What other things are there? Any questions about property tax exemption? Yes, sir.
22A.
22A.
Loss or loss of use of,
Yeah.
the last one, or 1I, does that have to be 100% loss?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is service connected, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So these conditions, loss or loss of use of, is a service connected condition. It's not you know, you just went blind, with nothing to do with the military. It has to be service connected. Any questions about property tax exemptions? No. Oh, what I did want to say about this is the first time that you apply, so if you have a new disability rating from the VA, the first time you apply, you have to provide your VA award letter, and it has to be the letter that says at the top, property tax, or words to that effect, and you have to provide your DD 214. After that, subsequent years, you don't need to provide that again, unless you move to a new community. The new community is gonna want that information as well. All right, so, disabled veteran annuity. So here in Massachusetts, we offer an annuity to veterans who are 100% service connected, including if your disability is through individual unemployability. You do obviously have to be a Massachusetts resident, because the state's not gonna pay this to somebody who does not live here in the state. You can ask our representative, he'll tell you. So, it is for 100% service-connected disabled veterans. I did not put it on there, but it's also, if a veteran is blind from service connection and rated less than 100%, or paraplegic from service connection, not rated 100%. Although I don't see why those two situations would not be 100%. But those are the two other qualifying categories. It's paid out, I'm gonna jump a little bit. It's paid out $1,000 in February and $1,000 in August. In order to get either of those payments, for the first time, you have to apply either by December 31st or June 30th. And then you get it for the next one, and then you're enrolled in the program. You don't always have to keep applying for this. If the veteran dies and is not a service-connected death, that annuity does not carry over to the surviving spouse. It ends, just like disability ends. If the veteran dies from a service-connected death, then that benefit will carry over to the surviving spouse. But that person will have to do a new application in his or her own name. Questions about that? Nope. Okay. How many in here served during a wartime period? Okay. How many in here how many here lived in Massachusetts before you joined the military? Did you get your welcome home bonuses?
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay. Did you get yours?
No,
Not yet?
I didn't hear anything.
You should be, because I know, I talked to him, you should be getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, here in Massachusetts, we have what's called a welcome home bonus. And you had to have lived in Massachusetts for the 6 months immediately prior to your entry onto active duty. And you had to be discharged under honorable conditions. So whether that's honorable or general under honorable, those are the two discharge types that qualify. And there's different eras and different amounts and different criteria. So for World War II and Korea, and the dates are on your flyer, on your handout, if you served during either of those two times, and you served overseas, you get a $300 bonus. This is a one-time bonus. If you served 6 months or more stateside, you get a $200 bonus. And if you served 1 day to 6 months stateside, you get a $100 bonus. If you did not, we have one World War II, two World War, any Korea? Okay. If either of you did not get this bonus, please reach out to me. If you lived in Massachusetts before you joined the military, please reach out to me so we can get this paid to you. So that's Korea as well. So in Vietnam,
I've got it.
you did get it? Mr. Quinn, do you know if you got it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So on the next slide, we'll talk about how we can check into that, or one of the coming up slides. So Vietnam era. I know we have quite a few Vietnam era veterans here. So if if you served in Vietnam, right, boots on the ground, you get a $300 bonus. If you serve 6 months or more of continuous active duty anywhere other than Vietnam, it's a $200 bonus. Again, it's a one-time bonus. Questions about that one? Yes.
May have been another category, but I got the 300.
You did get the 300?
Blue Water Navy.
Oh, okay. So that might be something that they changed because of,
I came out around 1964.
okay. All right, that's good. Maybe they're figuring if you were off the coast of Vietnam, they'll still give you the 300. But this is how it's worded on the
There might be another
application.
category down below, we
There's-
haven't seen that.
No, there's not. Unless it's not published on the website or on the application.
Well, I could be remembering it wrong, and it's a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, Persian Gulf era veterans. This is my era. And I haven't even put in for my bonus yet. So, if you served in the area of the Persian Gulf or the contiguous waters, and you were awarded the Southwest Asia Service Medal, you can get a $500 bonus. If you were on active duty for at least 30 days and you served anywhere else, you get a $300 bonus. Global War on Terror is a little different because that was 20 years of wartime. Service members had numerous deployments, so this one allows for additional bonuses for subsequent deployments. And I know we have two, anybody else? Just you two? Okay, so we have two veterans in this room that fall under this. So if either of you served in Iraq, Afghanistan, or any other Department of Defense designated imminent danger area, and I don't know what they all are, for your first deployment, you're entitled to a $1,000 bonus. Do either of you know if you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Not yet.
Brian, you gotta come see me. If you had subsequent deployments to those locations, for each subsequent deployment, you get an additional $500. If you did not serve in any of those regions, but you served 6 months of continuous active duty within CONUS, continental United States, or OCONUS, outside of the continental United States, but not in these imminent danger locations, you get $500. Now, what's a little different for the subsequent deployments is your 6 months of continuous active service. On your discharge paperwork or your orders has to say in support of whichever operation, and you get a $250 bonus. Do you have a question? Oh. You look like you had a question. Okay. So I did clarify that last week with the guy from the treasurer's office, because if you serve 6 years on active duty during this time frame, they're not going to pay you $250 twice a year because you 6 months and 6 months every year, right? So you have your deployment, so you leave your permanent duty station to go somewhere else temporarily in support of an operation, then you qualify for a subsequent bonus. Questions about that one?
How about 9/11?
What?
9/11?
Well, so
I
nine,
might have 30 days turn when 9/11 was going on.
so it has to be 6 months.
6 months.
30 days doesn't qualify, unfortunately. Okay? So, here's, did you say something else?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, there are 2 new bonuses that were recently added. One is called the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. So that one is where you were awarded that medal for participation in a combat operation when no other bonuses were available. If you were awarded the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for service in Vietnam, you don't qualify for both. This is more for like Grenada, Lebanon, Panama, like the different smaller operations, not like the wartime period. What I emailed you, this link should be active, where you can click and see all of the operations and the inclusive dates. then, any National Guard in here that was activated for COVID? No. Anybody know a National Guard member that was activated for COVID? No, okay. Well, if you come across one, they can get a bonus from the state for an activation or subsequent activation in support of COVID for the Massachusetts state of emergency. All right, questions about bonuses? No, okay. Give me 1 second. So, the Registry of Motor Vehicles has numerous things that you can get. One, and I have more information on this, but one, you can get on your driver's license or your ID card, the word veteran stamped right on your license. Why would you want to do that? So you can show proof of military service for military discounts at retailers, pretty much. You can also get just a veteran license plate. You can get a National Guard plate. There's special Veteran Series license plates that you can get if you meet the criteria. And then there's a disabled veteran plate, again, if you meet the criteria. So we're gonna go through all of these. Okay, so the veteran designation, you can see it down here, it's circled. It just says veteran on your license. If you wanna get that, you have to have an honorable discharge. You do have to provide your DD 214 that shows your character of discharge. If you had a discharge upgrade, right, so say you got out on an other than honorable, and you requested and was approved for a discharge upgrade to honorable, you should have gotten a DD 215, which is a correction to your DD 214. You have to provide that. Or you can show an honorable discharge form. That's pre-1950. That's not your honorable discharge certificate. It's a different thing. So on the application, which is called driver's license, learner's permit, or ID card application, under section D, there's a military status box. What's hidden on there is if you're currently on active duty and what branch of service. At the far right is asked if you want the word veteran printed on your ID. So that's what you have to check in order to get this. Questions on that one?
What do you have to bring to the registry to?
Your
get that
DD 214, yeah. All right. So the veteran license plate. So there's a couple of examples of what they look like. So there is a $100 registration fee for 2 years for a passenger vehicle, or $40 for motorcycles. Right? And when I first was in this job, I was like, why does it cost more money for a veteran to get a veteran plate than it does to get a regular plate? The extra money goes to help support the 2 soldiers' homes in Massachusetts. So to me, that was a worthwhile cause, so I decided I'm gonna get the plate. That's up to you if you wanna do that or not, but that's where that extra money goes. Your discharge has to be under honorable conditions, so again, honorable or general under honorable. And you can either get a generic plate that has the American flag, or you can get a sticker that goes where the flag would go for the branch of service that you were in. If you were in more than one, you can choose which one you want. And there's also wartime decals that you can get. On the application, you can check it. It says you can get up to 4. I don't know where they could fit 4 stickers, but that's what it says. Questions about that? All right. So the National Guard plate, this is a little different than the veteran plate because you have to either be currently serving in the National Guard or you're a 20-plus year National Guard retiree. And this application does have to go up to the National Guard headquarters for them to certify before it goes to the registry. And that's what it looks like. And it's again a $100 registration fee. All right. So there's a whole bunch of other license plates that you can get if you were awarded one of these awards, medals, or you're one of these last two categories. What's good about all of these plates Honor, I have a little star next to that. That one you can only get a 1-year registration. The rest, it's a 2-year registration. I don't know why they stipulate the difference, but that's what it is. And then if you're getting this on a motorcycle, again, it's only a 1-year registration. So that's what they all look like. So you can see Bronze Star, Silver Star, Purple Heart, Legion of Valor, Distinguished Flying Cross, Medal of Honor. I like that the Medal of Honor is that blue. Pearl Harbor Survivor, and ex-prisoner of war. So that's what the plates look like. Questions about those? All right, disabled veteran plate. I get a lot of questions about this. There's a father and son here in Westport that came to me. The father is 60% service-connected disabled. The son is 100% service-connected disabled. The father qualifies for this plate. The son does not. And you go, why is that? You can't just be 100% to get this plate. Your service-connected disability, and I'm going to get to this, but your service-connected disability has to meet criteria that would otherwise qualify you for like a handicap placard. And I'm going to, on here, I'll get to all of the different criteria. So, you do have to be at least 60% service-connected, and your service-connected condition has to qualify, like I said, for one of those medical conditions. And in order to get this, what you have to do is contact the VA and ask them to send you your disabled letter. It's not the disabled letter that shows your 60%. It's a separate letter that breaks down what your disabilities are, the code and the diagnosis. That gets sent along with the application to the registry, and the registry has a board of medical professionals that will review it and determine if you qualify or not. You can only get this for one vehicle. Even if you own multiple ones, you can only get it for one vehicle. It does have to be owned by the veteran, and it cannot be used for commercial purposes. So, if you are approved, if you apply for and are approved for the veteran plate, it doesn't mean you have to get it. It just means that you're approved, and you can get a waiver of your registration fee, your driver's license fee, and your excise tax through the town. If you want to get an exemption on your sales tax, you have to have the disabled veteran plate. You can't just have the approval letter. And it's just for one car, so if you have the plate on a car and you're trading that car in, then you can get the sales tax exemption, is how I understand it works. Questions about this part of it? So these are all of the conditions. And I'm not going to go over these all one by one, but basically the top two, you have problems walking, right? You have issues with your legs. You need somebody to help you walk. You need a cane, a walker, things like that. Or you have problems breathing. You have oxygen. You have certain cardiac conditions. Just note, if you have a class 4 cardiac condition, you cannot have a driver's license. So if you apply for a disabled veteran plate and they say you have a class 4 cardiac condition, they're going to revoke your driver's license. So be aware. There's another one, functional arthritis. Again, declared legally blind. We don't want blind people driving. It's bad enough we have people driving that are always looking at their cell phones. So again, if you're legally blind, you can own a car, you just can't drive that car. Somebody could drive it for you. Or you've lost the use of one or more limbs. So basically, in general, those are the criteria. Service-connected. Every single one of these has to be service-connected. Questions about that? Okay, we're getting to the end. This is going to be a short one today. All right, so in 2018, the state passed the BRAVE Act. And I have to say, the government loves their acronyms. And I want to know, how do you guys come up with all of these names? What's the conversation like to come up with these names? So it's the BRAVE Act, the Veterans Benefits, Rights, Appreciation, Validation, and Enforcement Act. So this act has so many stipulations to it. I'm not going over all of them. I'm going over the ones that I think are gonna impact people the most. So the first one, and I took advantage of this before I came in this job, because obviously I can't take Veterans Day and Memorial Day off. But if you're a veteran and you work for a company, you can request time off on Memorial Day and or Veterans Day to participate in your community's events. That's the key. I don't know, it's maybe it's an honor system, maybe, excuse me. I don't know if there's a way to get proof. Oh my God. It is at the discretion of the employer. Obviously, if you're a police officer, firefighter, EMT, work in a hospital, you're kind of an essential employee. They may or may not be able to accommodate it. And they can opt to not pay you for that time, or they can choose, you're a veteran, I'm gonna pay you. I don't know why I have a tickle in my throat today, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, so the other thing is that this law requires the Department of Veteran Services to maintain a list of law firms and organizations that can provide pro bono, free legal representation to veterans. That doesn't mean if you're in trouble and you have a court case pending that you're going to get a free lawyer. That means you call them and they can help guide you, refer you, that kind of stuff. They're not going to represent you for free in a lengthy trial. It allows municipalities to create veteran designated parking. And this is something that we did here in Westport. My first year on the job, Veterans Day, we unveiled veteran parking at the town hall and the town hall annex. You are supposed to have something on your vehicle identifying it as belonging to a veteran, whether it's a veteran plate, one of those special series plates. If you don't have that and you live in Westport and you want to get something, I have placards that I made up that you can just put on your dashboard. So if that's something you're interested in, give me a call. So where they are, at the town hall, it's on the north side of the building, maybe 6, I think, spots up from the street. At the town hall annex, it's on the south side of the building. There's like a little kind of grassy area with, I don't know if it's like a gas meter or something. It's right next to that. It's like its own little spot that's by itself. Please, please, please use them. I got them approved. I had to go to the select board. I really want veterans to use them when they come to either of these places. All right. Anybody in here do shell fishing? No? No? Nobody? Wow. Well, if you do, if you're a Westport resident and you say, I want to go to Fairhaven and do some shell fishing, you have to get a shellfish license from Fairhaven. They cannot charge you the non-resident rate. They are obligated to provide the resident rate to any Massachusetts veteran, regardless of where you live in Massachusetts and what community you're getting that license from. They have to charge you the resident rate. And then this one is, if you're in trouble with the law, they're gonna see if you're a veteran, and they're gonna see if they have what are called diversion programs for veterans courts. Depending on the nature of the offense, they might say, let's send this veteran for treatment. The veteran has PTSD and they're getting in trouble, or they're using drugs and they're getting in trouble. They might say, let's send this veteran for treatment, for detox, whatever, rather than giving them a felony conviction, see if that helps. If you're charged with something serious, they're not gonna do that. All right, couple other things. So I don't know anybody here if you've applied for the exemption in the past, and your property is in a trust, you had to turn in your trust documentation with your application. You no longer in Westport, you no longer have to do that. So that's what's called a local option, meaning each community in the state can choose whether or not they want to adopt that clause. Here in Westport, we did adopt a clause so that you no longer have to provide the trust documentation if your property is in a trust. The next one is if you are a surviving parent of a service member or a veteran who died on active duty or from a service-connected death, so you can get on 100% property tax exemption. Again, that's a local option. Right now, we have not adopted it in Westport, but Theo from the assessor's office and I are talking about that, and we want to get that on the warrant at the next town meeting and get that approved, right? The way I look at it, if you're a parent and you lost your service member while they were serving this country, or because of an illness they incurred or an injury they incurred on active duty, they've sacrificed enough. Why are we going to charge them property taxes on top of that? That's my opinion. But that might be on the warrant, so if you're a Westport resident and you feel strongly about that, please go to the meeting in March, May, when is it? I don't know. I put number 8 on there because we are a farming community here in Westport. So there's a program. Does this sound okay? It sounds like I lost it. No. They created a fund to help veterans who want to get into the field of agriculture. So I thought that's something that might, be of interest to people here in town. And then the last one is, there is a Gold Star family plate. I didn't put it on the registry part of it, but if you are a Gold Star family member and you have a commercial vehicle, you can put your Gold Star family plate on your commercial vehicle as long as it's not like marked, like all over it has marked what the company name is. Questions about the BRAVE Act. There's a lot more than this, but again, those are the ones that I thought were the highlights of it. No? All right. So the SPEED Act, this one just passed this year. And again, another acronym, Military Spouse License, Affordability, Education, and Enrollment of Dependents Act. So, a lot of this act has to do with active duty personnel. They're being transferred to Massachusetts as far as when they're considered a resident for registering for school for their kids, for college tuition, whether it's in-state, out-of-state, things like that. But the ones that I think are important, and this number 1 is something I definitely am going to be working with families to do, is it establishes a Medal of Fidelity. So, a little background about that. We already have what's called a Medal of Liberty, and that medal is given to next of kin of active duty service members who died in service to this country. But there was nothing for the families of a veteran who served in Vietnam, got some form of cancer due to Agent Orange, and eventually passed away from it. It's a service-connected condition, but there's nothing to honor the family. So the state came up with the Medal of Fidelity, and that would be awarded to the next of kin of service members or veterans who died from a service-connected condition, or it's really veterans, who died from a service-connected condition after their service ends. So if it's Agent Orange exposure, if it's the toxic water at Camp Lejeune, if it's burn pits, and the veterans got illnesses after service that eventually led to their passing. It even is for PTSD, suicide is a big one, TBIs, traumatic brain injuries. So the next of kin will get a medal. So there's an application process. The form gets filled out. It gets sent up to the National Guard. They have a committee. They review it, and they'll approve it or deny it. And then that gets awarded in a ceremony. So that's something that I'm trying to identify those families here in Westport who should be getting this medal. It talks a little bit about National Guard members being able to split their education benefits between dependents. The property taxes, it says that the assessor's office cannot ask you for any supporting documentation once they've approved your application unless your disability rating decreases. Then you have to provide new documentation to see which clause you fall under. Designates the school as a Purple Heart campus. There's certain criteria. I gotta read more into that to see exactly what that means, to see if any of our schools here in Westport would meet that criteria, so that we can get them designated as Purple Heart campus. Again, this number 5 is really more for spouses coming into the state, being transferred with their service member, to get if they have a professional license, to quickly get it transferred to the state, so they can work in the state. Number 6 is a big one. So it requires funeral directors to provide information to the family members of a veteran who they're coordinating the funeral for, of the funeral and burial benefits available to them. But they can't just say, here's the information, go your merry way. You actually have to sign a form that says you got this information, because that way they can't say, well, we told them, and it's gonna be like, they didn't tell me that. It's not like a he said, she said type of a thing. You actually have to sign paperwork. So basically, that's like letting them know about the funeral assistance through the Chapter 115, letting them know about the funeral benefits through the VA, things like that. They have to let them know about those, the assistance for burials. Number 7 and 8 has to do with burn pits. So they're going to be coming up, the state's going to be coming up with literature about burn pits that's going to be sent out to hospitals, doctors' offices, the VSOs throughout the state, the veterans organizations, and then there's going to be a database. So if you're a veteran who was exposed to burn pits, you can self-identify to be included in the database. If you are a business owner and you hire members of the National Guard, you have not more than 100 employees, you can get a tax credit of $2,000 for each member of the National Guard. Anybody know who Deborah Sampson is? No? So Deborah Sampson lived during the Revolutionary War, and she disguised herself as a man so she could go and fight in the Revolutionary War. And she is from right here in Massachusetts. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I remember
So-
I went to that.
So, every year, there's a female veteran in the state who can be nominated and selected to receive the Deborah Sampson Award. And I'm not saying that for self purposes, I'm just letting you know. But they want to build a memorial monument to her. So they're going to create a commission to identify a location and a suitable monument. And then, Brian, this will be important to you probably, they want to create a commission to allow slot machines in veterans organizations, right? Your VFWs, your American Legions. Paul's happy about that. He's cheering in the back.
One thing I want to say on that, I know that's been through, it's going to committee or something, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, they're establishing a commission. I don't know how that works. Is there anything you want to add about any of this? Because I know you were part of this.
I think this is fabulous what you've done, and I don't have anything to add.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so the last two are just the links to the resources, and that's our presentation. Any questions?
Great job as usual. Great job, Carol.
For our veterans,
What?
may I share something for our veterans on
Yeah.
Ocean State?
Yeah,
Okay,
so Michelle has something she wants to share.
okay.
For those of you who don't know Michelle, she is a woman Marine, like me. She served during Vietnam. She's a part of the Marine Corps Legion New Bedford with me. She She's been coming to all of these sessions.
Okay, yesterday I seen on my Facebook, and I know from going there, Ocean State Job Lot. You know how usually they, right around Veterans Day, they give us out 25% or something?
Mhm.
What they're gonna do this year, starting the 10th through the 16th, if you spend $30 or more, they give you 40% in those little crazy cards.
Uh-huh.
In other words, money back, okay? Which I just did, because for the 45th anniversary, last week they just did it, and I have like 4 of those cards now, worth about $300 more to spend than what I spent. So, I just wanna share that with you. The Ocean State Job Lot, from the 10th of November to the 16th of November, whatever you spend, over $30, you will get 40% in those crazy cards,
Yeah,
which is sort of like a credit card or whatever.
yeah,
Okay, and I just wanted to share that with you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Does anybody wanna go to the schools on Wednesday?
To the who?
Brian?
We talked this morning about a couple of things you were gonna
Oh,
ask.
yes, okay. So,
Go to the what,
So-
Carol?
you're gonna be on a plane.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true, yeah. That's right.
So, a suggestion was made this morning that sometimes if you have a married couple and one person of that couple primarily handles the finances, and the other person isn't really involved, doesn't know, I don't wanna say doesn't know what's going on, but, might not be as on top of it. So, what happens if that spouse, who is always handling the finances, passes away? And now the surviving spouse is like, what do I do? So the suggestion was to have a class like this about finances. Is that something anybody would be interested in? I got one yes. Anyone else? No? Yes? Okay.
I've been going on with my mother since my father died
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2015.
So, I mean, sometimes it happens. I mean, you've got, the older generation where it was like, that was the guy's responsibility, and the woman, the wife, was not involved in it. And then the husband passes away, and the wife's like, I don't know what bills we have, The other thing I wanna say about that too, this is a situation that did come up. If you're a single veteran, or even if you're not, but especially if you're a single veteran, and you have a bank account, and it's just your name on the bank account, and you pass away, if you have family members, they have to go through probate court to get access to that money. And that's a lot of work to do that. So, I would highly encourage you to either put somebody else's name on there, or I believe some banks, you can list somebody as the beneficiary of that account. And that person can then, once you provide the death certificate, and go and get that money. Okay, Michelle?
I used to do, I always had a choice for beneficiary. In my account, I had asked because I'm just on it alone.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this up because, I definitely need to get somebody,
Yeah,
thank you.
all right. So I have a couple people said they would be interested in that, so that's something I'm gonna try and look at. The other thing I wanna do is, I had a few people that were interested in coming to these classes, but they work during the week. So in the spring, I think I might offer them at night, like around 6 o'clock at night during the week. So if it's something you wanna come to again, I might be doing that, so there may be more information to follow on that. Yes,
I tried to get, like, my nephews on my bank account,
Yeah.
but they're out of state. So you gotta go home through.
yeah, they would have to come
They
here.
have to come here and
Yeah.
all that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, so,
If you're using a nationwide bank, you may be able to do it through the different branches.
yeah,
And let the branch managers talk to each other.
yeah,
But if you're using like Westport Credit Union that doesn't have an out-of-state branch, they would
Right.
have to come here to do all that.
right,
stuff.
yeah. If you're like,
So
if
that's
you're,
something to think about. Bank of
you're like
America or something, you can
Bank
do it in
of-
a different state.
like Bank of America that's everywhere, they
Yeah.
could probably do it that way. My last name is F-R-E.
Yeah, you would say that. Yeah, you would. Leave it to a Marine.
I'm kidding, I'm totally kidding. All right, any other questions?
gotta stick that in.
I hope to see all of you next Friday at our Veterans Day ceremony. It will be at 10 o'clock. Weather permitting, it'll be at the brand-new Veterans Monument at Beech Grove Cemetery. Fingers crossed. If not, we will move it to the Town Hall Annex Gym. Look, if you see the weather forecast for Friday is kind of iffy, look on the Westport VSO Facebook page if you're on Facebook, or the town's website under the Veteran Services Department. It will be posted right there on the homepage for any changes by next Thursday. Again, for those of you who were not here before, this coming Wednesday, the 3 schools in Westport are doing ceremonies to honor veterans, and they invite any veteran to attend. The elementary school starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. The middle school starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if you want to go to the middle school, please let me know, because I have to tell them how many people are attending. And then the Macomber School is at 12:30. On Thursday, the 10th, Marine Corps birthday, I did not plan that. The Council on Aging is doing their Veterans Breakfast. If you want to go, give them a call, sign up. Your spouse can go as well. And then again, Friday is our Veterans Day ceremony. So thank you all for coming. I hope this was educational.
And thanks for the great presentation, Carol.
We have one more session after that, right?
Oh, yeah, hold on 1 second. So I do have the one more session is scheduled, that's gonna be on November 18th, so 2 weeks from today. And that is gonna be, it originally was supposed to be just survivors benefits, but I moved last week's session on VA pension. I'm gonna combine it with survivors benefits, because the two are very closely related. One of the benefits, pension and survivors pension, it's the same thing, it's just the income amounts are lower. So I'm combining those. So that'll be November 18th, 10 a.m., same place. I hope to see you all here.
Same channel, same station.
Same time, same time.